On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're heading to Richmond, Virginia to visit the home of Xandy Nickel. Xandy's hosting a spring ladies brunch and has just under 3 hours to get everything ready before her guests arrive. She's entertaining 6 friends and walks us through how she prepares it all. From her signature chicken salad to a fresh asparagus soup, watch how Xandy pulls off a beautiful, effortless gathering you won't want to miss. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Xandy Nickel. Welcome to my Richmond home. I'm going to be having lunch today with 6 of my friends. I'm busy cooking in the kitchen. We're going to have poached shrimp and lots of other goodies. And then I'm going to set a table outside and welcome everybody into my home. I've got about 3 hours until they get here, so come on in. Hi, my name is Xandy Nickel, and this is my home in Virginia called Hopkins Hill. We've been at Hopkins Hill for about 5 years. My husband and I were looking for a home together after we got married, and this house came on the market. It wasn't known as Hopkins Hill at the time. We actually named it that. But this house had been sold to someone who got out here, realized that it was way too much property for them to handle. So within 2 or 3 weeks, they put it back on the market. And our realtor had less than 10 days to sell this house, or they were going to give it to someone else. So she called us and she said, I really want you to come look at this house. And when we drove up the driveway, it was like coming home. We immediately looked at one another and we knew that we wanted to live on this property. So we've worked really hard in restoring it and getting to a place that fits our needs. And it's just a special little place. But the Hopkins in Hopkins Hill are actually buried on our property. They were the original homeowners from, I think, the 1700s, 17 or 1800s. And so we affectionately named it after them. Now we're in my kitchen where I'm going to be preparing a roasted shrimp and orzo salad along with a triple berry chicken salad. But before we get to that, I wanted to show you around a little bit, some of my favorite parts about the kitchen. Of course, my favorite thing in the entire house, what it was built around, is my Le Cornu, which is a French stove. And the reason I love it is that to me, it always reminded me of steamer luggage. And so I get a lot of questions about it. It's smaller, it's European, and I actually have a home in Tennessee where I'm doing another version of this. And we had a custom hood done for it, which is really lovely. It's got restaurant strength vents in there, which is really important when you're cooking as much as I do. Some of the features that we have are our Shaw sink with the apron front. I've always wanted one of these ever since I was a little child. I just think they're so beautiful. And we redid the windows in the kitchen to bring it a little bit more natural light. We had actually renovated this house right before COVID and didn't get to enjoy this kitchen for 2 years. So when we finally moved back, I've wanted nothing more than just to stay in here. We made sure that we went with paneled fronts to our dishwasher and refrigerator because we wanted the room to seem a little bit bigger. It is a small farmhouse. It appears larger on film, I think, but it's an open concept room, and we just had to be really thoughtful about what we put in the space. And one of the pieces that people seem to love the most, in addition to my stove, is our green hutch. And people love this color. True story, this was a color of a leaf that I found in my front yard and had them custom matched. And I love the latches on there, and it really is a place where I keep all of my dishes, utensils, serving pieces, things that I use on a daily basis. So I have 2 favorite items in this, and one is obviously my soup tureen collection, because I'm affectionately known as the soup lady on social media. And the other piece that I love are, I love my green and white dinnerware. This particular one is from Tory Burch. This is Jaliska, but green's always been my favorite color. So I just love mixing and matching and just bringing all of the pieces together. The dining table is French antique. It's 18th century. And it has this wonderful little side door where you can keep cutlery if you'd like. The interesting thing about this is the space is pretty small, and it was the perfect size. We didn't have to do anything to it. And the chairs are also French. I got these at Scott's Antique Market in Atlanta when I used to live there. And a lot of people comment on these as well. I wish I could reproduce them and sell them myself, but they're just so special. The design is really feminine, and I love that it has a unique look. Definitely have some top tips for hosting. The first is be prepared. And by that I mean, don't wait till the day of. I've been working on something for the last 3 days, chopping and getting all of my dishware organized. I think being on top of everything and knowing what your plans are going to be is really important. Additionally, and I think probably the most important thing is be considerate of who you are inviting to your home. I think guests have an obligation, as well as the host, to really communicate and make conversations flow. So if you're invited, I think you should say to yourself, this person really wanted me to be there, and it's a real honor to be invited into someone's home. And then the third is be considerate of other people's food aversions and allergies. It's really important in this day and time is to reach out to your guests, make sure you know what their restrictions are, and come up with a menu that everybody can enjoy. I love to host and cook, but I grew up in a family of very, very picky eaters. I was the only person who would try different foods. I mean, spaghetti and meatballs and noodles were all served on 3 separate plates. And my mother only cooked twice a year. We said the best thing that she made was reservations, but she cooks on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's the exact same meal every year. So when I got married, I realized I didn't know how to turn on a stove. So my parents started gifting me cookbooks, regional cookbooks, cookbooks from the church. So I basically taught myself how to cook. It was something that I enjoyed. It was very therapeutic. I've loved being in the kitchen. And then it just sort of easily translated over into hosting. My family grew up in Virginia, but our entire extended families were in South Carolina. And then when I got married, my boys and I lived places where we didn't have family either. So neighbors and coworkers became friends. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than inviting people into your home for a meal. So now let's head back into the kitchen, because I really do need to get cooking. I already have some water boiling. I'm gonna pull out some orzo. So this dish comes together really quickly. So I'm gonna first start with the orzo. I've got some salted boiling water. And next, I'm going to get started on my roasted shrimp. So I'm going to grab some shrimp that I've already peeled and deveined. And one of the things that I like to do is save all of my shells and fish heads and tails. It makes for the best seafood stock. And I do have a recipe on my blog for that. I'm using some really good olive oil. And I'm just going to coat these. Very simple. I'm just going to add some fresh cracked black pepper and some kosher salt. Give that a good mix. I'm going to roast these for 6 minutes, and when they're done, the orzo should be finished around the same time. My orzo's been cooking for about 9 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take it off and drain it. So while the orzo, we're getting some of the moisture out of the orzo, I'm going to make a marinade for it. For this recipe, we're going to do equal parts oil and lemon. Because I'm making this for a little bit larger crowd than just my husband and I, I'm going to do a little bit more of the marinade, about 3/4 of a cup of each product. This is a recipe that I created last week. Like all of my recipes, they come from a place of real hunger. Usually when I'm going to the grocery store, I'm hungry. And so whatever it is that I see that I like, I pick it up and I come home and I try to make something out of it. Now I'm going to add equal parts of oil. Most important part about my kitchen is the trash cans right here. And this could not be more simple. You pour the lemon and the olive oil in a large bowl. I'm gonna use about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Salt. Fresh cracked black pepper. And then my favorite part is garlic. I always say measure with your heart. My heart is big. I've got some really great tips for garlic. One is I partnered with Spice World last year, and I love working with their products. They have everything from minced ginger to minced garlic. A lot of people call it jarlic. I have no problem with using that, especially if you're using it in soups or something that's going to cook for a long time. But if you really want to, if you're really scared about chopping garlic, grate it up. I'm going to use a grater here just so it's a little bit finer for the marinade. But Spice World also has already peeled garlic. Another thing that I love to do is just put a whole head of it in tinfoil, put some olive oil, salt and pepper, and roast it. In fact, I've made an asparagus soup today, and I've done just that. We're going to mix this all together, and then you're going to pour your orzo right into it and let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes while you chop up all your other ingredients. One of the things that I like about the dishes that I'm making today is some of this could have been made the day before. I knew that y'all wanted to watch me in the kitchen a little bit, but the soup I made last night, and nothing is going to take longer than 15 minutes to assemble. So I'm just going to stir this around, and I'm going to let this sit while I start chopping my vegetables. So perfect timing because my shrimp is now ready. I'm going to grab that from the oven. Oh, that's perfect. And I'm going to add it right to my orzo. Give that a good mix. I am actually going to taste this to make sure I put enough of the dressing on there. Perfect. Really good. It's really light and fresh, but perfect. It's a little bit chilly here. April is can be bipolar sometimes, and we're experiencing a little bit of a cold front. We're still going to try to eat outside today because it's so pretty. We love to take advantage of spring as much as possible because summers get here really quick. All right, so I'm going to let this marinate, and then I'm going to start my chopping. My shrimp and orzo has been marinating for about 30 minutes, and during that time I chopped up all the other ingredients. This is something that would be a great idea to do the day before, so when your guests arrive, you just throw it all into a bowl. I have got sun-dried tomatoes, red onion, cucumber, lots of Italian parsley, and dill. And I'm just going to pour that in. I'm going to give it a good stir, and then you want to let that sit for about another half hour. I'm going to set this aside and let this marinate for about 30 minutes to an hour and let it get all commingled together. And so I'm going to go outside and set the table. Come on with me. I started blogging about 5 years ago. It was during COVID, and my husband and I moved down to South Carolina because our farm here in Virginia didn't have internet, and we were both working from home. But I found that I had so much time on my hands, and a lot of the people that I was working with were really young. I mean, in their 20s, their first job, and they were living in apartments by themselves. And they reached out to me and said, hey, can you teach me how to cook? And so since I was doing it organically every day at home, I started sharing recipes, and then people encouraged me to put them on Instagram. And one of the things that I love most about that platform is I get to write stories and share that love of writing with other people. My husband's father was a florist, so he helps me with a lot of designs. And I found these beautiful light pink hydrangeas, and my favorite peonies were in bloom. So I created a really low centerpiece because I think it's very important to be able to see the faces of all your guests. I just found some quirky candlesticks that I thought were so much fun. So I brought the pink and green from inside outdoors. I really love the idea of gifting something to your guest when they leave your home. And these bags from Apollos, I've been collecting them for years. Whenever I travel, I try to get one from the city that I'm in. And so they were so kind to collaborate with me, and it's Apollos with a Sutherland Belle with my favorite green signature color. And I was able to get name tags for all of my guests. Now that the table's set, we're gonna run back into the kitchen because I've got chicken in the oven and I've got a few more things to do before my guests arrive. Just prepping the base of the salad. This is going to be a triple berry rosemary chicken salad. The chicken is in the oven roasting right now. So I'm just going to mix some greens on a plate. I'm going to top it with strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries. I've made the most delicious blackberry balsamic vinaigrette. One of my favorite companies is Bon Maman, and they sent me some of their preserves. When you're making a vinaigrette, I like mine on the creamy side, so I do mine in the blender. It's some balsamic vinegar, oil, and a little Dijon mustard, and then instead of using honey or sugar, I use blackberry jam. I have my mixed greens, my triple berries, blueberry, blackberry, and strawberry. And I finally sliced some red onion, and here's a hint. If the red onion is too strong for you, soak it in water for about 5 minutes before serving, and it'll mellow out the flavor. I've also got some bourbon praline pecans that I'm gonna use because my husband says you always have to have something crunchy on a salad. I've got some really pungent gorgonzola, which is gonna mix really well with the sweetness of the berries and the pralines. And then I've made my blackberry vinaigrette. And I'm gonna top it all off with rosemary chicken. So at this point, I'm gonna drizzle a little bit of the blackberry balsamic vinegar over top. You don't wanna give it too much of a soak because I'm gonna individually serve this at the table and let people put on as much as they'd like. Next, I'm gonna add my chicken. And I marinated my chicken for about 3 hours with some rosemary and oregano. I really like using fresh herbs, but when you're doing a marinade like this, dried is perfectly fine. If you're using fresh, you just want to double the amount. And then I put a little bit of lemon and Dijon to keep with the theme of the rest of the meal, and just marinated that for a couple of hours. Put it in the oven. You could definitely put this on the grill as well. It would have been nice, but my husband typically does the grill and he just had knee surgery. So the oven it is. And I really like to use a very strong cheese with this. So I'm using gorgonzola. You could use Roquefort or goat cheese. Any cheese you want would work well with this, but I like a really strong cheese to balance all the sweetness from the dressing and the berries. For my husband, for something crunchy, I'm gonna do some bourbon praline pecans, which I did not make these. My mom makes them every year at Christmas, but I picked these up at Publix because what makes life easy makes me happy. So now that I've finished with the salad and my orzo has been marinating, it's almost time for my guests to get here for lunch. But I still have my asparagus soup that I need to finish. And one of the things that I like to do is make sure that I know all of the dietary restrictions of my guests. And one of them, my friends, is actually lactose intolerant. So I'm gonna be scooping some of the soup out for her and then mixing in some yummy cream and creme fraiche to my asparagus soup. So last night in preparation, I pre-roasted all of my asparagus and my garlic. And I put that in with some chicken stock, some dried mustard, and some dill. We're trying to make a cohesive menu, so I wanted to bring dill into another dish. And this is one of my favorite soups. So I cooked that for about 15 minutes, blended it, and then just let it sit. And today I am going to be dividing this to those who like dairy and those who do not. But I added some Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to remove this And then I'm going to add some creme fraiche and some heavy whipping cream for the rest of us. Now I've put my Parmesan cheese in already, and I'm just going to put in about a cup of heavy whipping cream. And then I'm going to do the piece de resistance, a big dollop of creme fraiche. Give that a good stir. And that's it. It's one of the simplest soups I make. I'm probably going to do it in the house. We're going to start with soup, and then I'll bring my guest inside, and we'll either do a buffet at the countertop, or I'll take the food to the table and we'll serve ourselves. But for soup, it can be a little messy, so I'd like to serve those in individual bowls. My husband and I are obsessed with country ham, simply because you can't get it many places, but in Virginia, we still have it. So one of our local grocery stores, U-Crops, what is a grocery store that I grew up here with in Richmond, still has a little market where they do ready-made foods. So I think it's perfectly okay to buy things that you didn't make yourself, even as somebody who cooks every single day. I want to be able to enjoy today just as much as anybody else. So I wanted to serve a little bite-sized sandwich, and the country ham biscuits with my favorite fig preserves are what I went with today. We're going to have some sparkling rosé when they come, so just a little something on your stomach before we actually have lunch. We are all done. So we can really, I just need to reheat the soup after people get here. I'm going to take the ham biscuits outside and put them on the table, because my guests should be arriving any minute. Thank y'all all so much for being here. This is really special that I was able to enjoy this all with you, so thank you. Thank you, Homeworthy, for spending the afternoon with me. I really enjoyed having your company in the kitchen. My door is always open, and there will always be a chair for you waiting at my table. But right now I need to run back to my physical guest, but come on back anytime. I'm happy to have you here.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.